Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see about the program maximum and minimum of n numbers. Okay, so here given n numbers, we are going to find out the maximum among these n numbers and the minimum among the m numbers. Okay, so this program is going to find both. Okay, so here we have used the concept of the arrays. So you know what is an array? Array is a collection of similar elements under a single name. Okay, for example, here the array used here is a of 1000. So a of 1000 means there can be 1000 elements in this array, and the array name is a, and this array is of integer type. Okay, so that means this array can hold integer elements alone. And then here we have some other variables i, n, min and max. They are also the integer values. Okay, so now as usual the program starts with the include stdio.h for standard input output, and it starts with the int main. Okay, and now the open braces starts the main program, and we declare all the variables and the arrays. All here one array is used which is the a. Array name is a and index is 1000. That means this array can hold 1000 integer elements. Okay, so now our program is, you are going to find a set of elements. We have to input a set of elements. From that we are going to find a minimum and the maximum. So first you are getting the size of the array. What is the size of the array means? What is the size of the, that means how many numbers you are going to hold in the array for this time. Okay, though it is the maximum element 1000, that means this 1000 declaration means this array can hold 1000 elements, but for our program how many elements we are going to consider? For example, 10 elements or 100 elements or 1000 elements. So that is called as a size of the array. So that has to be get from the input through this scanf statement, %d ampersand n. N is the number of elements. Now next we are going to really get the elements of the array. Okay, and so for that you have to just give the print message, printf enter the elements in the array, and then we have to start getting the input, because this is a continuous set of elements. To get the input we are using the for loop. So you know for loop is a entry controlled loop where we know how many elements they are going to, how many times you are going to execute the for loop, that is the n time. Okay, so that means this for loop is going to receive all the n elements. For example, your array has 10 elements. You say that I is less than or equal to 10 means up to 9, that means 0 to 9. 0 to 9 is 10. So 10 times this for loop rotates, repeats to get the element ampersand a of I. Here normally when you here we are just given ampersand n, it is a single element. Okay, but here it is an array element, so we have to refer by the index. That means here a of first time it will be a of 0, first element, and second time the loop rotates a of 1, second element, and then a of 2, third element, etc. till the all the 10 elements are input by the scan statement. So we have got all the inputs. Now our program is going to find out the minimum and the maximum. So what you do, initially you assume that the first element as the minimum and also the first element as the maximum. So that is then a of 0. So a of 0 is the first element of the array which is assigned as maximum as well as the minimum. Now we are going to repeat the for loop for n times to find out the minimum and then and also the maximum of this n elements. So what you are checking here, this is an if loop. This if loop is going to check whether the element you have considered a of I, that means initially a of 0 is in the minimum position and initially a of 1 is the first element. So we are checking the minimum element with the first element. Okay, if the minimum element is greater than the first element, okay, then what that means is minimum element will be the a of I. Okay, so what you have chosen as minimum initially, if it is greater means we are going to assign the element we are checking as at the minimum element. So minimum is equal to a of I. Okay, and then so likewise this if loop checks for the minimum element, and then with the same thing, suppose we are checking for the maximum element, means we are checking for maximum less than a of I. That means we have chosen something as maximum which is the first element, and then we are checking with the continuous elements. So naturally when you are checking the first element of the second element, if the maximum element what you assume the first element is minimum, then you have to make, that means if it is less than the max means we have to make the first element as the maximum element. Okay, so that means we are just checking for the successive elements with the previous elements, so that we are getting the minimum element as well as the maximum element. So at a single execution, in the first time when the for loop repeats, it checks whether the assumed element min or max is less than or greater than the first element of the array. Accordingly, it arranges the elements, and then the loop checks for the second element and third element and all the n minus 1 elements, and when it becomes n, this for loop exits, it will be exited. That means the work is completed, and now the program has got the minimum and the maximum element, and that minimum is stored in the minimum and the maximum element is stored in the max variable. So initially min and max were a of 0. After this for loop repeats many times and the position of the elements get varied, and accordingly the minimum and the maximum values are stored in the min and the max position. So finally the program has to return the 0 because it is an integer main function, and then the close braces, and that's all. The program has found out the minimum and the maximum element. Now let us check with an example. This is the output I have got from the execution of this program. Array size is 5 and I have entered all the elements. So size is 5 means I have to give 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is also one element. Okay, so array size is 5 and this is the first element, second element, third element, fourth element and fifth element. Okay, so now how our program worked is, it has find out this minus 9 as the minimum element and then 99 as the maximum element. So initially the first element is 5, and with this first element the minimum was found out checking with 63, minus 9, 32 and 99. While checking with this number, here the loop has stopped and then minus 9 is found out the minimum number, and likewise 5 is started as the maximum element and then the loop rotates, so 63. So 63 is greater, 9 and then 9 is lesser than 5 and then 32 is greater, and finally 99 is greater than all the elements. So by this way, checking this way, this program has found out the maximum element is 99. So this is how the program executes to find out the maximum and the minimum elements in the given array. Hope you understood the logic behind this program, and thanks for watching.